All right, quick question. Which is going to make you sound more fluent if you speak slower or speak faster? Let's find out today on the Accent Journey. Welcome back to the Accent Journey, the podcast for non-native speakers of American English who want to sound clearer, more confident, and more natural when they speak. I'm Steve Nelson, an American English accent coach with AccentFirst.com. Today I'd like to challenge one of the biggest myths in language learning. Many language learners believe that sounding fluent means speaking fast. But here's the truth. Native speakers don't sound fluent because they speak quickly. They sound fluent because they speak smoothly, with natural rhythm, clear stress, and good control. In fact, one of the fastest ways to improve your pronunciation is often to do the opposite of what you think. Slow down. Today we're going to talk about why speaking a little more slowly can actually make you sound more natural, and we'll practice how to do it. Have you ever noticed yourself trying to keep up with native speakers? Maybe you're in a meeting, a conversation, or a language exchange. Someone asks you a question. You know exactly what you want to say, but you rush. The sounds become less clear. You skip syllables, your stress disappears. Suddenly, people ask you to repeat yourself. The problem wasn't your English. The problem was your pace. Many learners confuse speed with fluency. They're not the same thing. Fluency is about speaking comfortably and continuously, not racing through your sentences. Okay, why do native speakers sound so fast then? Well, here's something interesting. Native speakers often aren't speaking as fast as you think. They're simply using connected speech, reductions, linking, thought groups, and natural rhythm. Many of those we've talked about in previous episodes of this podcast. Because everything flows together, their speech sounds fast. But if you measure individual words, many native speakers actually slow down when they're explaining something important. They speed up and slow down naturally. That's part of what makes their speech easy to follow. When you slow down slightly, you give yourself time to pronounce vowels clearly, finish consonants, use natural sentence stress, group words into thought groups, and breathe at appropriate moments. Ironically, slowing down often makes you sound more confident, not less. Think about it. Do powerful people rush their words? No, they speak slowly and make you wait for them to finish what they have to say. All right, let's compare two versions of the same sentence. Version 1. Yesterday I went to the supermarket because I needed to buy a few things before dinner. Whew, that's a mouthful. And a lot of people try to say the whole thing in one breath, like I just did. But instead, let's divide it into thought groups, as we've talked about in a previous episode. Yesterday, I went to the supermarket because I needed to buy a few things before dinner. Now repeat after me. Yesterday, I went to the supermarket because I needed to buy a few things before dinner. Notice that slowing down doesn't make the sentence unnatural. It makes it easier to understand. Now try these. After work, we met some friends for dinner downtown. After work, we met some friends for dinner downtown. This morning, I had an online meeting with our team in New York. This morning, I had an online meeting with our team in New York. Before we left, we checked the weather one last time. Before we left, we checked the weather one last time. We need to learn to pause with purpose. Pauses are not mistakes. They're part of natural speech. Professional speakers pause, news anchors pause, podcast hosts pause, even actors pause. A short pause gives your listener time to process what you've said. It also gives you time to think about what comes next. All right, let's practice. Repeat after me. I'd like to tell you about my vacation. One of the biggest challenges was the weather. Fortunately, everything worked out well. In the end, it was a great experience. Don't rush, enjoy the pauses. Imagine you have 30 seconds to answer a question. Would you rather say 100 words that are difficult to understand, or 60 words that are clear, confident, and natural? Most listeners would choose the second option every time. Communication isn't a race. The goal isn't to speak more. The goal is to help people understand you easily. All right, let's do some dialogue practice. Repeat both roles. Dialogue 1. How was your weekend? It was great. I spent some time hiking with a few friends. Dialogue 2. What are you working on? I'm preparing a presentation for next week's conference. Dialogue 3. Did you enjoy the movie? Yes, it was much better than I expected. Dialogue 4. What's your goal for your English? I'd like to sound more natural and speak with more confidence. Notice that you're not speaking slowly, you're speaking comfortably. All right, now for this week's practice passage, listen and repeat. The first time I'll say it slowly, then a bit more naturally, but focus on smooth rhythm, not speed. Many people believe they need to speak quickly to sound fluent, but that's rarely true. Clear pronunciation, natural rhythm, and thought pauses make speech easier to understand. When you slow down just a little, you give yourself time to pronounce words more accurately and express your ideas with greater confidence. Many people believe they need to speak quickly to sound fluent, but that's rarely true. Clear pronunciation, natural rhythm, and thoughtful pauses make speech easier to understand. When you slow down just a little, you give yourself time to pronounce more words accurately and express your ideas with greater confidence. Imagine you're explaining something important to a friend. Speak clearly, breathe naturally, and let the sentences flow. For this week's challenge, I'd like you to try something different. Listen to a podcast interview. Pay attention to moments when the speaker explains an important idea, tells a story, answers a difficult question, and notice what happens. Very often, they slow down, they pause, they emphasize important words, they don't rush. Once you start listening for it, you'll hear it quite a lot. Now for this week's key takeaways. First, fluency is not the same as speed. Second, speaking slightly more slowly improves clarity. Third, thought groups and pauses make speech easier to understand. And 4, native speakers naturally vary their pace depending on the situation. If you remember one thing, don't try to sound fast. Try to sound clear. The speed will come naturally over time. This week, record yourself speaking for 1 minute about your day. Then listen to the recording. Ask yourself, did I rush? Did I pause naturally? Were my stressed words clear? Could a listener easily follow my ideas? Then record it again. This time, slow down by about 10%. You may be surprised how much more confident and natural you sound. Remember, people aren't impressed by fast speech. They're impressed by speech that's easy to understand. So don't be afraid to slow down. Give your pronunciation room to breathe. Thanks again for joining me in another episode of The Accent Journey. This podcast is brought to you by Accent First Speech Communication Services and is hosted by me, Steve Nelson. Our music is Hypnosis by Vondra D. Send us an email at info@accentfirst.com and don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and also comment wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, Keep listening, keep practicing, and remember, slow is smooth and smooth is fluent.